Three, two, one. Hey guys, welcome back to the Way Podcast with your host Sajjan Mirwar. This week we have a new guest. He is one of the, hilarious members of the TGR, the Green Room podcast. Very funny show. You guys should check them out. Check out their Instagram and check out their podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. And today we have Niko of
Yes, sir.
TGR. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, man. First of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Like the introduction said, I'm one quarter of the Green Room podcast, TGR 905. You can check us out on Instagram and all that jazz. It's actually good to sort of be a guest because usually on the podcast, I'm the one that's talking for like 80% of the time. So I like this whole interview setup. Just a quick breakdown of what TGR is. It's essentially just four dudes from the same environment, from the same city. We didn't all grow up together, but sort of at 9 degrees of separation type of thing, 6 degrees of separation. So we just like to blend, current news, pop culture, science, sports, music, and have a little flair for comedy and so forth. So check it out, man, if you can.
Yeah, you guys should check it out. Just there's some hilarious top, especially if you're from Toronto. some funny moments.
Sometimes I think we need subtitles.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
Yeah.
It's part of the journey, right? And how I know you is we used to train Muay Thai together at Brampton Muay Thai. I know you had Crew Nick as a guest. I checked out that episode. It was such a good episode, man.
It was sick. It's kind of surreal talking about that. I was like, I didn't think he was gonna agree to that. I don't know why I thought that. I was just nervous to ask him. But,
yeah. No, he's definitely, not trying to boost his ego or anything. He does watch this, but he's definitely one of those guys who, when he has something to say, you just sort of you're engaged right away.
Mm-hmm.
Just because from what I've experienced under his tutelage is that he can easily relate a lot of things to your personal life and therefore make you or help you understand certain concepts better.
Mm-hmm.
And through the understanding and building of a relationship, there's this camaraderie and you get to know him, he gets to know you, and so forth. And martial arts, man, it changed my life. So
yeah, for sure. Like that episode, we got to. I always want to, like, I never really had a long extended conversation with her, right? Because I was a kid. You can't really like, hey, want to come out to eat, know. But yeah, it was just great to learn because I always heard, he would tell us stories in the kids class, like about him going to the what was it, the basketball camp where like Magic Johnson went, and he's like, he thought he was going to the NBA, like all these dreams, and then it all just dissolved, and then he had to he started partying, and things were just going all over the place, and he found martial arts, and he had his journey through that. I think that's something I think all martial artists to some extent, even people who are more recreational, right, just want to go and get a workout in. Even people that they have that kind of a similar sort of experience, not just surface level. You build camaraderie. It's like going to the gym with the same few guys, or seeing the same guys at the gym, or coming to like going to intramurals or whatever, right? It's just you can always build that sense of camaraderie while also staying active. But yeah, I'm actually very interested. How did you start in Muay Thai?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. It happened to be by accident. I'm not too sure. Do you know Dr. Don?
Yes.
Yeah, he's one of the chiropractors at BMT. So a long time ago, I forget how him and Crew Nick linked up, but I think it was at a basketball game or something. And then Crew Nick was just like, yeah, come through, check us out, whatever. So then he started practicing or training Muay Thai, right? And then he kept telling me about it because we're we're tight. Like me and my family are brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, it's whatever. I'm just focused on, lifting weights and trying to get jacked. The
Yeah,
stupid,
yeah, yeah,
that meathead mentality, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Get
exactly. I just
dieseled,
want to
get dieseled.
just want to get swole. I had like no concept of what fitness was at that point, right? I thought it was just, you get muscles, you're aesthetically pleasing to the eye, therefore you're
Hmm.
fit, you're strong, you can hold your own. Obviously, that's not the case. But anyways, he started training. And then he started practicing his. He started becoming a physio there, and then eventually a chiropractic. Uh, and Don, if you're listening to this and I butcher the story, please forgive me, bro. Um, but eventually, I've always actually, not to sidetrack, but I've always been a fan of combat sports.
Hmm.
Like I grew up on boxing. And I always used to watch the UFC when it was in its infancy, even like the glory days, the pride days, and stuff like that. So obviously, you have this predisposed attraction to martial arts. And then one day he's like, "Yeah, let's go." And then I eventually committed to going. I remember specifically, I was like, "Man, I know they skip to warm up. I don't know how to skip, so I'm gonna practice skipping for a month
Yeah.
so I don't look like an idiot." So essentially, I did that. I got into one of the classes. I did it. I pretty much died. Felt like I was
Yeah.
drowning the whole time. I said, "I'm not fit." I thought I was fit, but I'm not fit. And then just from there, I just fell in love with it, man. I think I always tell people, like when specifically Muay Thai, because I can only speak on Muay Thai's behalf, is that once you do it, it's either you fall in love with it or you hate it.
That is very
Because
true.
it is definitely not for everybody. Uh, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
So that's essentially how I got into it, and then ever since, I think I've been in it for 6 or 7 years now. I always lose count, but I always find myself going back because not only do I learn something new or how to do something better, but it teaches me about myself personally, how
Hmm.
far I can go, uh, where I can take my body, my mind, and that in essence is what martial arts is to me. So, and I'm also the type of person that like when I do something, I become obsessive because I want to get good at
Yeah,
it. I'm
same.
sure I'm sure you're the same way. I've seen you playing like the keys and your music and stuff. By the way,
Appreciate it,
it's
man.
it's, it's freaking sick. Keep it up.
Thanks, bro.
So,
Thanks.
and then I'm also the type of person when I'll just fall out of something if I'm no longer attracted to it.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a polarization in my personality, of course, but Muay Thai is still there for me, and I I still see it being there for me in the future, some way or another.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing, man. With when I guess people have different experiences with martial art, like especially the way Muay Thai was taught at our school compared to different places. Like most places, I think I talked about it in the episode with crew. It was like you're either, you know, a person who's going to work nine to five, wants to get a workout in from 6 to 7,
Hmm.
goes there, leaves, jokes around after class, and then dips, right? Or you're the person that I'm going to dedicate my whole life to this. I'm going to compete. I'm going to become the best fighter in the world. And there's no in between, right?
Hmm.
But one thing I love just it was less. It was taught like less of a sport because
Yeah,
it was taught more of a martial art, which I really appreciated. Because I see, like once leaving there, I didn't realize how good I had it there. Like we
true.
tried a few different gyms after that, and you just feel like you don't feel like obviously you have to build the connection, but it's also partly crews, just amazing ability to connect with people and also be able to teach the art of Muay Thai. But like you just don't feel that connection. You kind of feel like, okay, he's just telling me to hit the pads, 1, 2, 3 combo, low kick.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and the worst, I think we could probably have a whole conversation, like just especially when it comes to sparring. Like sparring is it's very again polarizing for people. It's like most people, a lot of people, when they go to their first sparring session, they either they love it, they get wrecked, but most of the time everyone gets wrecked in their first time in sparring, obviously.
Oh,
Yeah,
still.
they always get yeah, till this day,
Hmm.
but it's like you get wrecked first time and then you quit. It's like I'm not gonna spar. It's not for me. Or you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I got wrecked, but I want to continue doing it. So I want to improve myself,
Yeah.
And I see the worst thing I see like a lot of other schools is just the ego that's supposed to be lost, right? Through the training of martial arts, through the humbling of being, outsmarted, beaten in these ways, shown that you're not as strong as other people or whatever. It's kind of lost at a lot of these places, and it's just taught like it's just a sport. Like it's just okay. We're gonna compete. We're here to compete, and that's fine. Like if you want to compete, that's if you want to become a professional fighter, obviously, right? You have to be able to compete and practice competing against other people. But like the worst is it's always the people who are less experienced. I find you'll be in sparring, and it's always a guy who's like a year in and he wants to just go super hard all the time.
Hmm.
Especially me, I'm a small guy too. It's like I'm 130 pounds, 5'8", and
Hmm.
it's like it hurts a lot more. It hurts me a lot more than it hurts you. And I remember like when I first started sparring with the adults, like when I was 14, I just felt that like, bro, I'm the smallest guy here by like 50 pounds. Like I might be close to the same height, but
Yeah.
everything hurts.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I hear you. And that's the thing. Yeah, like you mentioned, like those guys who come in it with like that huge ego, uh, that's because they haven't been put in a position to where their ego is challenged enough so that they show up with a non-existent ego.
Hmm.
Because I think one of the biggest takeaways from martial arts for me from starting it is that ego. Like, everybody has an ego, which is fine, but to be grounded and to have self-awareness of, listen, like, you could be the biggest guy, you could be the strongest dude, but you can't always be the most technical. So therefore, everybody's unbeatable, is everybody's beatable at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So that notion of goes out the window, and then I feel like that's when you become more open to learning, to accepting failure, to applying what you're being taught, and to sort of sucking at it, but then
Hmm.
eventually being good, because it's how many times you get back up at the end of the day. But I do have a question for you, and obviously this can go 45-minute discussion, but like briefly, like what is the biggest takeaway that you learned from learning martial arts yourself? If there was one thing that you would say that martial arts has taught you, what would you say that is?
I guess it'd probably be that um, it's it's definitely that losing your ego is more valuable than I feel like yeah, having being humbled, the feeling of being humbled and learning from the experience is 1,000 times better than feeling having an inflated ego and feeling good, like I'm the best. I think nothing
Hmm.
beats that feeling of like, you know what, I suck at this. And then,
Yeah,
and the thing you can apply it, that's one thing from martial arts is you can apply it for everything, right? Like,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. And it kind of taught me to love the feeling of sucking at something, which is
Right.
weird for people, right? I'm not like a Goggins, right? Like, oh, be in discomfort all the time, stop
Yeah.
slacking. I'm not one of those
Yeah.
guys. I'm not that intense, but I have some small amount of that. It's like I don't know, taking the hard way. I don't know what it is. It's just through because we learn so much through struggle, right? And I've been
Couldn't
fortunate
agree
enough
more.
not to struggle in many areas of my life. I didn't have to worry about food, about clothes on my back, and all that, um, all those sort of things. And there's it really helps you grow in like every aspect of your life. And if you can learn to, you know, if you can learn to find some sort of good out of a bad experience, like getting destroyed. Like I've had many days where it's like, man, I can't believe I got hit with that so many times. Like the first time I went to that new gym, it was like I got a shiner like the day.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
yeah. The first time I ever got a well, it wasn't a full shiner, but it was kind of like
Yeah, yeah.
just around here, and I have a scrape on my I had a scrape on my forehead. And I knew like after that, I kept on getting hit with the teep by one of these guys there. They're all MMA guys, so it's like I kind of got like, bro, how these MMA guys hitting me with this teep over and over again.
Yeah.
But it was just like, but when I took it out of perspective, like I looked at it after a few days, and it was like I got out of my head. It was kind of it's like it's not that big a deal, you know. It was a sparring session. You know, I was
Hmm.
so because I'm like I remember I used to come like I'd get late to this sessions like we get in traffic and I get so stressed. It's like I don't want to be late. Like I was so
That's like
neurotic
me too,
about it.
man. Yep, yep.
Yeah. And then like I walk it and then crew one day, I'll never forget this. I came in, I had this, I don't know, I guess I had this really stressed look on my face. It's like something up, man. Just chill. You're here now. Like just relax. You're here to train. Don't worry about anything else. And
Hmm.
then I just like when before sparring, I start after you said that before sparring, I would do like this. I know it's kind of weird. It seems a little ritualistic, but it's like I would do this thing where I would wipe my face, wipe my gloves, wipe my shin guards. I would always do that. It's kind of like me wiping up the stress for the day. Like it's gone. Like I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I
Nice.
just
It's like a
laser,
metaphor, yeah.
yeah, like laser focus on Muay Thai and sparring.
Yeah. I feel like for people who aren't, you know, for people who don't do this specifically, you could say the same for essentially any sport, but it's different because something like this is it is a sport technically, but it's also not a game at the same time, if that makes
Yeah,
any sense.
for
I
sure.
mean, the lines between offense and defense are completely blurred. There's no such thing. Um, so what I noticed and what I love about it is that you are truly living in the moment when you are
Hmm.
there and
Yeah.
doing it to your full potential. There's no past, there's no future, right? It's just the here and now. And I feel like as humans, as society progresses, I feel like we're so disconnected from that. Um, Even if we are so connected through things like social media at the same time, but we're so hell bent on, you know, oh, should I be doing this or should I have done that? But here,
Yeah.
when you go to this spot, the dojo, it's you and you only. And what can you do? How can you push yourself in that moment? How can you become better? How can you give it your all? Um,
Yeah.
so that in itself is essentially it's like I hate to make it an exaggeration, but it is a life changing experience in that sense.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think it is an exaggeration. Like anyone who has had a good experience like this with martial art can probably attest to it. It's one of those
Mhm.
things like they say sometimes the only times I remember when my sparring sessions is when I did something wrong. Most of the time. Okay, a few times. Like a few
Because you
times,
get punished,
yeah. Because you even if it's not even like I don't even get hit, it's just the mental thoughts like, oh,
right?
if I did this in a fight, I would have gotten knocked out. You know,
Hmm.
like one of those one of those feelings. But you know, sometimes I do. Obviously, I do remember like really cool moments as well.
Yeah,
Um, but when I'm in the moment and I'm in pure flow state, I
yeah,
don't remember. Like I'll go after and just I just remember the feeling I had, not what I was doing.
right. And it is like well, it is an art, right?
Hmm.
Martial arts, and you're a musician. There has to be some parallels between creating music and being in that flow state, like you mentioned, with
Hmm.
practicing martial arts or sparring, or you know, when you're absolutely fatigued and you don't think you can go, right? Do you agree with that? Do
Yeah,
you feel like
a
there's
hundred
a
percent.
different, like a translation between the two?
Yeah, for sure. Like one thing Crew was amazing at was using, like you were saying, analogies and different, I guess, examples to help us understand. And with me, he knew I was a musician. He would always use music
Hmm.
as an example, and he would often use language. And yeah, I totally feel that flow state. Like it's just these sort of feelings when you're in that moment, you can't really describe. Like when I in high school, I was in jazz band and concert band, and when we would play, like it wasn't like the same, right? It was like, oh, I'm performing, right? It's usually
Yeah,
stressful, like for everyone on the
yeah,
performance
yeah.
day. But I remember in grade 12, we created like a student jazz band. So like whatever instruments we wanted, like just everything. And I played piano there. I was playing trumpet in the other bands. And there's like the feeling when you jam with another person, it's like because you're just feeding off each other, right? You're
Yeah.
just somebody to play on the drums. I'd be on the keys, somebody be on the saxophone, and it would just be like you're in that. It's such a like it's just a happy moment. I don't know. I can't really describe it. It's like when you have a great conversation with someone,
Hmm.
and it's like you just feel in that you're in the moment, and you just feel good. Like you
Yeah, it
just
just
have that
flows.
warm feeling
Hmm.
inside of you. And it's
Yeah.
very, yeah, it's just like it's obviously not the same. Like you don't feel warm and happy when you're punching someone in the face, but
No, definitely not.
if you do, you're kind of,
Sadistic.
yeah, a little sadistic. But it's a similar sort of thing. Like when, especially with the Thai style sparring, light,
Hmm.
well, not light, just technical, not going 100%.
Yeah, but it's also playful at the same time, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Like you're not trying to win, you're trying to improve, right?
hmm,
You're trying to improve yourself, not defeat the other person.
hmm,
And
I agree.
it's like it's just like Crew would always say, it's a conversation between each person. That's what sparring should be. It shouldn't be an argument, right? He'd always
Right.
equate a fight to an argument. Everyone's trying to
Hmm.
dominate the conversation.
Yep.
And yeah, and sparring is like a healthy debate, and it's almost like the same thing. Like there's kind of musical sparring a lot of times in music. Like when you jam, it's like, okay, we're going 8 bars, and then okay, he jumps in after 8 bars. Then we take a break, right? I'm just playing in the background, and then the
Right,
other
right,
person
right.
jumps in, and then it's just this back and forth. That was like the old school jazz.
Yeah, yeah.
They would just on top of just layers and layers on top of each other, and just increasing the pace. And it's this one thing that another thing in martial art allowed me to, I guess, or one thing I got from martial art, another thing was perspective on how similar everything really is. Everything's just, it's not really, it's kind of general what I'm gonna say, but it's like everything is the same, but it's also different at the same time.
Definitely.
It's like there's so many analogies that we can make to everything, right?
Hmm.
Conversation to martial art, conversation to music,
Hmm.
words to movement. Like
Exactly.
you wouldn't think that it would work, but it just kind of feels like it's supposed to.
Yeah, and it's in essence, it is. It is this beautiful rhythmic thing that we do, or martial artists do, whether it be Muay Thai, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, karate, boxing, you name it. But at the surface level, it's barbaric. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's essentially, for the untrained eye, it's people punching one another, punching, kicking, trying to hurt. You know,
Yeah,
it's me trying to hurt you, right? But I don't know. It's weird because like it's something that is so archaic, but that it's something that we evolved with as human beings. But we we stray away from it because in a sense it is violence, right?
mm-hmm.
Nobody essentially wants to be violent, but within that violence, within that brutality, is beauty, it's art,
Mm-hmm.
it's rhythm, it's cadence. Um, it's you and I. It's dancing. It's music. It's words. It's a conversation. I like to look at it that way. I don't particularly like violence,
Of course, yeah.
right? I don't think you do either. Um, I try to stay away from any, argumentative anything, especially now that I've learned martial arts. It's weird
Yes.
because I think people are like, oh, you know how to fight, all of a sudden you're trying to look for a fight. Well, in
It's
that,
the opposite.
it's the complete opposite. I mean, the people we train with are the most peaceful, humble people that I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
That, if they were confronted, they would rather run away or diffuse the situation before having to do what you're trained to do. And I think that within, an adequate martial artist, that perception is so important, right? I think that's one of the main things that I've learned from learning martial arts is sort of the self-confidence attained from combat. To
Yeah.
be to put yourself in a stressful situation
On purpose.
on purpose and finding solace and finding peace in that moment, which is, not everybody can do that. I'm not saying, oh, I'm
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
man, but I'm just saying, like, in situations like that, stressful situations where you know how to handle yourself, where you know how to ground yourself and, be aware of the situation and be ready. I think that's the most important part too, being ready. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like when it comes to, I mean, there's a lot of course, martial arts is often brought up with the topic of self-defense.
Mhm.
And, there's a common thing that the best form of self-defense is track and field, get the hell out of there.
I agree with this.
It's
I
true.
agree with this.
But I think what's even more important is just situational awareness and being able to operate under high stress. Like for example, I'm CPR. I have a CPR certification. I'm certified as a lifeguard. I never was a lifeguard, but like I have my certification, and I've had to,
case.
yeah, just in case, right? But I mean, I've been in situations where I've had to use it, but it's like it wasn't like one of my aunts. She felt like got vertigo or something. She fell. She passed out, and then I was able to stay calm. Like I find just in general, I'm very
level-headed.
Yeah, in those situations, and I kind of attribute that to martial art. It's like I just think like what could be harder than someone trying to hurt you and well, obviously they're not trying to hurt you in sparring. They shouldn't be, but just the thought of this high stress situation. It's like if I can handle that, like just this situation's fine. It's like I know what to do, and that's why like I used to get stressed out about a lot of things, but like even during tests, my parents always say it's like you're too chill all the time.
Yeah,
it's like I think it's better than being high stress because
100%. I agree.
Yeah, some level of stress is good, right? It's just you don't want to just be lax, but that's just kind of discipline that you gain from that's one thing that martial art also does teach you is discipline. But like you don't have to be in a highly stressful state during a highly stressful time, right? If you have the ability to make that distinction in your mind. Of course, I get stressed out, like especially right now. During its midterm season, I get stressed out, of course, but it's taught me to look at things from an outside perspective. It's like I can't remember. I think it's like a saying a lot of old school karate teachers from Okinawa would say. Sometimes you gotta climb another mountain to see how it looks from the top. There's different ways to the peak of the mountain, right?
I like that.
And sometimes you gotta climb another mountain to see the best way to the top.
Sure.
And one thing that this is what martial art has taught me. It's like I don't have to. Most of the time we're like this, right?
Yep.
In a stressful situation, but being able to take the blinders off and almost step out of yourself and see from an outside perspective, right? I'm getting kind of like zen right now.
But that's exactly what it is, man.
Yeah, it's just that feeling of okay, these are the consequences if I do this, and or this is the situation I am in. Look at it as if it has no weight,
Yeah.
And when you were able to look at it almost objectively, it helps you manage a situation a lot. Like without extra emotion. I mean, of course, emotion is very important because it helps us understand ourselves, and it's part of what makes us human. But being able into in these stressful situations, like being able to remove that sort of emotional, highly emotional state, and be able
Yep.
to look at things calmly, it's just better in the long run, right?
Yeah, I mean, reacting like strictly on emotion is probably one of our greatest downfalls as humans.
Yeah.
Whether it be if we're too angry or if we're sad or greedy or whatever. It's like you said, training your mind, training your body, putting yourself in stressful situations like that, getting used to it, being comfortable by being uncomfortable
Hmm.
is, in a sense, what you learn. I've always learned that through the years of doing this, that your mind gives up quicker than your body does. And that can essentially apply to literally everything in life. Um, because, you know, we're always in a constant battle and between ourselves, like, I shouldn't do this, or I don't have to do this, or whatever, or I could just take a break, or
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And like you mentioned, you don't have to be Goggins all the time and do that 100% of the time. But it's also there's also a realization in which our minds are so powerful, um, that we do it a disservice of. I think martial arts is one of the best ways that I've experienced to sort of reach and essentially look beyond it and see this can go on, and my mind can go on, my body will follow, and so.
Yeah, yeah. It's I think that's just the beauty of what martial art can do. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's just I think and we were saying like it can apply to anything. I guess has there ever been like I'm sure there has like where you've applied these kind of principles and things you've learned through martial art in your life? Like,
Yeah, definitely. I used to work at a hospital. Um, I used to work at an urgent care clinic, and even through when COVID first started happening, I was working front lines.
I
Um,
see.
and living in a city where there's such a high population, there's only one hospital, you tend to sort of attract, not yourself, like not myself, but the facility would attract a certain type of people over time. You see hundreds and hundreds of people a day. Of course, there's going to be people who are confrontational because they're either sick or, which is fine. Like, you're sick, you're injured, you're not the happiest person. Nobody goes to a hospital
Yeah.
for fun. But there have definitely been situations in which there have been impending like danger in front of me due to people. Like, I hate to use the word being crazy because it's such a taboo word to say these days, but
Yeah.
uh, there have been instances where, because of my training, I was able to assess the situation, remain calm, diffuse the situation, and be okay. I mean, that's as simple as it gets, and that's what it was. I mean, and that in itself is one of the more extreme examples. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
essentially anything that we learn training or through martial arts is you can apply to anything, whether it be school, work, or relationships or music or anything, right? But yeah, that's probably one of the more memorable ones, which have been it's happened on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
um, and I'm not going to say that they weren't stressful, but they were less stressful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you know what I'm saying. I mean, physically I wasn't stressed. Mentally, it's different. especially if it builds up over time. But I'm thankful enough to sort of have an outlet like this. A lot of people who are stressed on a daily basis, whether it be through work, school, or relationships, they don't have a positive outlet like martial arts, right? A lot of people turn to things like alcohol or drugs, right? So like you said, I'm checking my privilege here, and I know that because I have this, I have something to rely on to sort of get that energy out there, let it dissipate,
Yeah.
as opposed to keeping it in. Because I've been there, I've done that. It's not a good road to go down. So yeah, like martial arts, man. What like even music, right? Like music is an amazing outlet to transfer your energy
Oh yeah, for
and your
sure.
stress into something that's productive, right? To make something meaningful. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's amongst other hobbies I have. Yeah, this is definitely up there.
Yeah,
One of
for
the top
sure.
ones for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's very I'm very impressed by you saying that, because I remember listening to I remember your last episode, episode 40, maybe 49, I think was your last episode. But
Yep.
yeah, you were talking about how you were having, you're talking about sleep paralysis, and I was listening to that too late at night, and I was like, I
Mhm.
gotta stop listening right now,
Oh no,
because
my
I was like,
yeah.
this is gonna screw me up. I'm not gonna sleep
Have you
tonight.
ever had sleep paralysis before?
Yeah, it's usually when I'm super stressed. Like I've had it a couple
Yeah,
times,
yeah,
not too bad. I've never sleep on my back. Like I've never, because I've
yeah.
had it. I've kind of stopped. Like I've had a okay. I've kind of had an in between. I don't know if you ever had an in between one. So I
Yeah,
don't know what there's
definitely.
not. Yeah, it's like,
I've been all
I
around
mean, yeah,
that
you've
with this
been a
shit.
lot worse, a lot worse situation than me. But I remember it was because it was for econ, stressing me out. That's one of the things that really got me stressed out was econ, but
Hmm.
in first year. But I remember I was lying down like this. I sleep on my side on my arm, and
Hmm.
then I remember I opened my eyes, and then I was like, I can't feel anything. Like I feel like I'm floating right now, and
Weirdest thing ever.
then I felt something like go like this. I saw a hand go like this, and I felt
Oh
it.
man.
I felt
Yep.
it, and I was like, okay. I used my martial arts in my mind. I was like, no, I was literally like, okay, this is not real. If I blink, it's gonna be gone. It'll be gone.
Hmm.
I blinked, boom, it was gone. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
And then after that, my body just went just tingling, like it was on fire. It was like, oh, my body's trying to wake up right now.
Yeah.
And it was one of the weirdest.
It's so odd, eh? It's just like, what is the evolutionary purpose of that? To just trip out while you're half
I
asleep. It's like
don't know.
snoring.
Yeah. It's like, why do we
Because
do it?
I snore, right? And
Mhm.
I'm like, I always think I'm like, if this was 1,000 years ago and I was snoring in the middle of a forest,
Yeah, some
I would
animal's
definitely
gonna
be
find it.
barefoot or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this makes no sense. But my girlfriend says it's because I have a deviated septum
Yeah, yeah.
from sparring. So thanks,
Oh, okay.
martial arts.
Yeah,
This is good for nothing.
bust your nose up, eh?
Yeah, no, straight up. But yeah, no. Back to that point. I mean, when I was when I had a bad, I know this is kind of derailing the whole topic, but when I
So
had the sleep paralysis bad, I was not, and I mentioned this in the episode, I was not in a good mind state. Like you mentioned, like when you had it, you were stressed. When I had it, I was depressed. And I would that and back to my point before is when I would numb that depression with alcohol and drugs. This was like 10 years ago or something. But I noticed quickly that it was not a healthy, obviously, it's not a healthy route
of
to take.
course, yeah.
But you're so susceptible to that kind of stuff, especially the environment you're in. I mean, the people I was hanging out with didn't really help the situation. And it was just a bad place. And then, of course, that was a precursor to that. And now I don't even have it anymore. So
That's great.
there's that. Yeah.
That's all. It's so weird. A lot of people in those positions can't really find a way out. They feel like
Hmm.
nothing can help them, and I'm sure you being in having been in that state, it feels like I can't do anything. Like I have to do something to just stop it. Like I can't get out of this situation. And
Yeah.
that's I'm so grateful to have like people I can at least talk to about like my good friends.
Hmm.
Just it's not therapy, but I think it's therapeutic, right? Obviously therapy, it's its own thing. It's like a whole process of science behind it, but just doing therapeutic kind of things like making music,
Yeah.
practicing martial art, hitting the bag. Is I have midterms this week, and I didn't hit the bag like all week. I hit it today. Felt so
Yeah.
good. It's just like beating the stress out,
Yeah. No,
beating the
I hear you.
worries out, man.
No, definitely, definitely. It's one of my favorite things to do. But yeah, I mean, since we're talking about mental health, I mean, it's such a like if, and I always mention this because I know people who have been there, people who are still there that uh I mean, when I was going through that situation, under the impression that I could just, fight my way through it. You know what I'm saying? Especially like how a lot of men are raised. We're taught to. This is on speaking on my behalf and some other people I know, close friends. We're taught to sort of just, suck it up.
Yeah.
You know, um, be a man type of shit. That
Hmm.
toxic masculinity type of movement, which is not the wave by
Yeah,
any
of
means of
course.
the
Yeah.
imagination. So it's there's you can definitely see people or men or women sort of falling into that path, and you can't really blame them. However, controversial topic, controversial opinion incoming, which is
That's all right.
um, I do believe strongly that you do have to help yourself
Yeah.
in situations unless it's like clinically
Yeah.
bad.
Diagnose. Yeah.
Exactly. And then obviously medication is there by a professional, but I feel like for a lot of times it's yourself that's getting in the way of your own
Hmm.
improvement, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, yeah, you're in this rut. It doesn't even have to be depression or anything like that. You could just have a shitty day,
Hmm.
right? You could be in this rut. What are you gonna do about it? You're gonna stay there or are you gonna move on? Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that can apply to martial arts as well. It's
Everything
like you
comes
just
back
get,
to martial
just
arts.
because you get hit doesn't mean you don't have to hit back. You
Exactly.
know, just
R-
because you get swept doesn't mean you have to stay down.
Yeah. And get back up. I
Hmm.
mean, it's so true, the saying of we are our own worst enemy.
Hmm.
And you really like, because you can't change unless you want to, like in any situation, even when especially when you're in those kind of extreme, even the mental states or physical states, like people who, if you want to, like people who are obese, it's like,
Yep.
if you want to lose weight, there's all these other things you can do, but nothing's going to change unless you have the mindset of wanting to lose
Exactly.
weight, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, it's like for me, like I've always been light and it's hard for me to gain weight, but people have gained weight, but I've always wanted to. It's like the thing is I can't stuff myself with 4,000 calories. Like I
Yeah.
can't, there's no way I can do that. And I've kind of like, the best thing is it's like, I'm sure you felt this, where it's always like you're too skinny, like gotta put on some weight, eat some more, like my
Yeah. I
grandma.
mean, yeah. Yeah.
It's always that.
Especially like immigrant families are always like that.
Yeah.
They're never satisfied. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, like even not to call out my parents, but they're not
Yeah.
like, oh, you look like, sometimes my dad is like, man, like just gain a little bit, just gain a little bit of weight, it's fine, like just it's fine.
Fine. It's fine.
And my
That's
mom,
fine.
he's like being nicer because he felt that a lot and then the ironic thing is when you gain too much weight, they're like, you're too
Yeah.
fat now,
Yeah.
lose
That's
some
what I'm saying.
weight.
How they're never
Yeah.
satisfied. And
Yeah.
it's weird because I feel like at least I experienced this when I was growing up in an immigrant family. I was like teased by my aunts and uncles. They're like, "Yo, why are you so chubby?" and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that, I mean, looking back on it now, it's just like, man, that's kind of messed up thing to say to a
Yeah.
child. But
Yeah.
no wonder why certain
Hmm.
things
Yeah.
happen. But um, there's just a disconnect. I mean, but it is what it is. But
Yeah.
sometimes I envy people of your body type, bro. I wish I could eat whatever the heck I wanted.
Yeah, yeah, it is good for sure. Like it's in my like my mom's side. All of
Mm,
her two brothers are way less than me. I mean, like I'm
hmm
taller. They're my mom's side of the family is pretty small.
hmm
So I'm like just a little bit under average height, like just around there. And it's like they have the same metabolism. It's just like they don't eat a lot either. But it's not
Yeah,
like I eat. It's not like I eat a ton.
yeah, yeah.
But it's like I kind of like right now I'm in the mindset of like I used to want to gain weight
hmm
like I just want to get to 140, man. It's like gain
yeah,
10 pounds, that'll be nice, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but it's like I gotta look at it realistically. And like okay, if I gain the 10 pounds, then what? Am I gonna be able to maintain it? Right? Because I'm
Yeah,
gonna have
I
to
mean,
still
that'd be hard. Yeah,
it's like
definitely.
to eat at the same level. It's like
Yeah.
people who cut so much weight, it's like you can't eat 1,000 calories a day working out.
Mm-mm.
Like you can't be at that calorie deficit all the time.
It's unsustainable.
Yeah, and then I was like, you know what? It doesn't. Why don't I just improve the body I have, or not just my body, just my health, I guess in
Hmm
general. It's not like I'm unhealthy, but I just want to, make my body as strong as possible with the current state it is at right
Yeah.
now. You know?
I think that's the most overlooked thing and most important thing actually is that a lot of people are really focused, especially people who don't train often or who are not into fitness and nutrition and stuff like that. They overlook that. They try to focus on if a dude or a woman has abs or
Hmm.
huge biceps or something, but they don't look at the bigger picture. Is like, how did this person move? Are they comfortable when they move? Are they flexible enough to do this and that? Do they have chronic pain or not? Right?
Yeah.
Or can can they run 2 kilometers and be absolutely fine and
Hmm.
stuff like that? So yeah, it's different. It's definitely, I think there's a disconnect between what fitness is for the average person and what fitness truly means to somebody who lives that life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I'm not saying like I'm not like a fitness guy, like I used to be. I always was interested in it. I remember I started lifting, right? When you're lifting in high school, it's not
Yeah.
always lifting. But in ninth grade, I remember I wanted to do like like every guy bodybuilding workouts and stuff like that. And then I remember this guy in grade 10, the football coach. I went to a sports school, so we had a really nice weight room, and we had a bad field, but a really good football team, and all our teams were really good, and all our coaches were high level coaches in Ontario. And I remember staying after school, like they leave the weight room open with supervision, and there's this football coach. I swear to God, his name was Muscleman, right?
No way.
His
Like,
name, like his Coach Muss.
that's
Everyone called him Coach Muss, right?
pretty jealous.
He's one of those old school, like I do 6 movements. That's it. Six. He's a
Mm,
pure power lifter. This guy would like he'd um he'd bench like 300 or something for his 1 rep max. Like he was
that's
just
crazy. True
crazy.
muscle man.
Yeah. And he actually taught. Thankfully, he was there because I've never been badly injured from lifting, right? And that really when you have no education about it, it's like that's when it happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
he taught us. We were there after school, and he taught us like the 6 main lifts. I mean, okay, 5 or 6. Pull up doesn't really count, but like um the basically the main powerlifting movements, taught us how to do it properly. And from there always like love, like I took a course called Mind and Muscle. It's like basically the weightlifting course. I
Okay,
learned
yeah,
how to build programs, like
nice.
basic programs and stuff like that from there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my favorite, I didn't like, I stopped liking bodybuilding a lot. Like I just didn't like it. I felt like, especially as a martial artist, they always joke like, oh, big guys, especially in martial arts, they don't have any, like, they can't move. They just get tired all the time, right? Because
hmm
their muscles aren't functional. Which is true to some extent, right? If you train your big muscles for martial arts, then they'll be functional. But
hmm
um, I kind of got out of that. Like, I don't want to do bicep curls anymore, like I don't really
Yeah.
care about that. I started like doing the powerlifting movements a lot. Like everything kind of became for Muay Thai, like just in my
Hmm.
mind.
Just to
Uh,
complement it, like, yeah,
yeah, like just deadlift, squat, bench, weighted pull up, shoulder press, like
yeah,
and row. That's all I did a program with that. Like I started like that course. We did a bunch of different programs, but first program I made my own was just simple powerlifting one. And like I had my bench stuck at like my body weight back then was like 125, and I was stuck. Like I could not get it higher than that. And I went in this program, and it took me a month and a half, and I increased it by 5 pounds. Finally got over that.
nice. Over
Like
the plateau.
that,
Yeah,
yeah, I was stuck there. Like some people just meant to bench more, like
yeah,
it's just in their body makeup. Like for me, like I was always light, so I could do like way more pull-ups than most guys.
hey, calisthenics is like super underrated, man. i'm
Yeah,
i'm heavy on calisthenics. That's
super
like the only
functional.
thing I focus on if I'm not training Muay Thai. um, just body weight exercise. I'm not
Yeah,
a fan of, personally, not yet. Maybe in the future I'll lift weights again. Um, but right now it's like you mentioned, about complementing
hmm,
the skill, right? And what gets me better to do these movements, which is things like that, especially
yeah,
like explosive workouts and stuff.
yeah.
Do you ever listen to Tim Ferriss?
I don't really listen. I haven't listened to his podcast, but I've heard a lot of ideas quoted from
Yeah.
his. Yeah.
So he wrote a couple books, but there's this podcast I listened to, one of his episodes, and it reminded me of your podcast. It's called How I Built the Tim Ferriss Show to 700 million plus downloads. Essentially, it's quite a lengthy podcast, but
Hmm.
it's very informative, and especially I feel like it would benefit somebody like you, who's starting out.
Oh yeah, I'll
Um,
write that down.
yeah, I can. Yeah, so it's called. It's episode number 538.
Okay. Five,
How
three,
38.
eight.
How I built the Tim Ferriss show. So basically, he just goes over with a guest on um, how he would have done things now, and how he sees podcasting, and what he did to become the successful podcaster that he's become. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
So
he's
whether,
one of the biggest in the world, or does he have like the
yeah,
number
I
one show
think
or
he's
something like that?
he's pretty up there. But he also has really amazing guests too.
Yeah, yeah.
And he wrote the 4 Hour Work Week.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
that's what
really
he's
good
famous
book.
for.
Tools of Titans and stuff like that. But definitely check it out, because I mean it's got some gems in there, man. Some things you can
Yeah.
really apply on how to sort of tailor a strategy on how to grow your podcast. Um, I think you're pretty. Well. This is just a subjective point of view. I'm not. TGR is not by any means a successful podcast,
Hey, pretty good, man. Pretty
according
good.
to me yet.
Yeah, not yet.
But you're definitely on the right track, man. I like the source material, the kind of material that you do, and the guests that you're getting on. I think that's the right track. But that's a biased opinion, because I do like these kind of podcasts. Like I like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
learning from people who specialize in certain things, or who dedicate a portion of their lives to certain, so they don't necessarily have to be an expert. They just have to
I've
essentially
experienced some,
experience. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like if you put in X amount of years into something, uh, you tend to be good at it,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Not pro or whatever, but you can definitely learn from stuff like people like you have on. So definitely check that out, man.
Yeah, for
um
sure. Like, yeah, there's a few like there's this podcast. Shout out to them, different boats, same storm or something. Yeah, yeah, that's what it's called. They're one of my
it's interesting.
upper year. He's not in the same program as me, but his name's Atarv, and then he started this podcast at the beginning of the pandemic with
Uh-huh.
his I forget his friend's name. But they started this podcast where it's kind of somewhat similar to what I'm doing, where they kind of had like people who are specialized in one area, um, and they go into why they like this sort of stuff, and
Hmm.
they're very well, they're successful for a casual, like very casual.
Okay.
podcast. And yeah, it's just, you know, one thing I think is important for a success in anything is just like I've tried so many, I've done a lot. I'm one of those, I'm sure you're like this too. You do so much research, and like once you're into something, you're into it.
Yep.
And you know, I'm in business right now, like in a business program. So, and I'm most likely going to do a marketing management specialist in it. So
Nice.
like I've always loved business ever since I was in yeah, ever since I was young. Like I always loved
Hmm.
business. And then I took a bunch of business courses in high school, and now I'm in a business program. And it's just like, you know, I love, obviously everyone talks about the freedom of it, but one thing I love about marketing is it kind of strays away from that stereotypical view of, oh, business is just, you know, pure, it's just the pursuit of pure capitalism, whatever. We
Right.
can have a whole, you can have a whole like talk about capitalism, all that, but
Yeah.
one thing it does, at least business allows, is just for just some sort of freedom, right? And as a creative person, I like to call myself a creative person. um, it gives you an outlet, right?
Hmm.
Because I mean, before it's like we couldn't imagine a musician back in, you know, the 80s. If you didn't get picked up by a record company, like you were done.
Yeah. You just call it
A
quits.
label, and then they get signed to these horrible deals and make no money. At least
Hmm.
now you could struggle on your own, right? As an indie artist, you might make less money than if you got picked up before, but at least it's your own, right? You're
Yeah.
kind of satisfying the self-determination theory of like you want to have this autonomy, like I want to do my own thing. And at least
Yep.
if I fail doing it, that's fine. It's like at least I did it. You know, that's one the mindset I've adopted a lot, because I used to be very hesitant to do stuff, and I'd
Okay.
over research. I still over research about stuff, but at least I make a decision of doing it. You know, like if
Right.
I
And that's
put
the
the,
hardest part.
yeah, like this podcast, I was like, you know, because I remember during the pandemic, like I started this podcast because like during the pandemic, I started university, right? The first
Hmm.
year was all online, and I'm now in my second year, finally going back in person, thankfully. But uh, it'd be it's so hard to connect with even someone who's experienced. Like I grew up with the internet, right? In its
Yeah.
infancy, and even someone who's been in that like communicating with people online a lot, like ever since they're young, it's still difficult to create meaningful friendships, like really close friendships like that. And you know, coming out of high school, going right in online to university, you kind of connected on how obviously we're lucky to go to university in the first place. It's again a good program, but you know, we kind of complain, like we'd always like, you know, just complain and connect with like the economics department. I always rag on the economics department, but like they're
Yeah.
just kind of ruthless.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they're pretty ruthless, but like I remember the only time you could talk to people and connect with them if you weren't doing like clubs. I didn't do any clubs in the first year because it was kind of a mess, but was basically you have like a few group projects every year, like maybe
Hmm.
two or three in all your courses. And I would just like after we would start to be talking for the project, right, work, do some work, I would always stay after and then force myself to engage in the conversation with people, right? And it'd be like the first time I talked to this person, like one of my friends, Joy. She like we first started talking, and then like the first time we started so casual, and then as it got later and later and later, we started like, what do you want to do with your life? Like it got just super philosophical. Um,
Existentialism
yeah,
types
it went from like,
conversation.
oh, what do you like to do in your free time into that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I was able to connect with people that way, right?
Yeah.
And bond with people. And that's when I was like, why don't I always listen to podcasts like ever since high school.
Hmm.
I was always listening to every once in a while. And I was like, there's just something about them that this medium of just being, it's almost like you're sitting there with them having a conversation. Like that's, it's just a fun way to enjoy content, right? Just everyone who doesn't like shoot shit with your boys, but it's kind of like that. I was like, why not just record it?
Why
Like, what's
not?
the big deal, right?
Exactly.
And if I post it, if it does well, it does well. People enjoy our conversation. And it's kind of it's a good way to force me to talk to different people, right? And actually sit down and have a good conversation with someone, because a lot of times we get wrapped up, like you, with work, with school and stuff like that, and we lose these opportunities to have these meaningful conversations. And having this podcast, like trying to upload every week, forces me to like reach out and just talk with people about interesting things. And I feel like it's kind of the whole philosophy of this podcast is just to expand our way and keep us on our way, right? By looking at other people's way of life. And
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, definitely.
And it just continues to help everyone grow, I guess. Whoever's listening to this podcast right now, I really appreciate just the few viewers that we have. And if you gain any sort of anything of value from this, I'll be happy, right? As a really hopefully.
Yeah. No, but definitely, from what I've seen from your episodes, I always tell people, like, if you learn something, or if it invokes an emotion like happiness or laughter, then that's successful. So if a podcast can teach you something, or if it can make you laugh at the end of the day, that is a successful episode or podcast in my eyes, because those are two things that we essentially have to search for in life. So yeah, I mean, like, where do you sort of find yourself, or the way podcast, and where do you see it in the next, let's say, 10 episodes?
So right now, I kind of want to keep it like I kind of want to keep it where I bring on regular guests, like my friends from high school that I have, like Christian and Beck, they're always on, and Charles, like people I know for a while, I've known for a while, to talk about just like, just fun stuff, right? Just stupid stuff like fast food items. But also bring on people like, like you, Crew, one of my other friends, Ethan Sanchez, just people who have another, not like my friends who have other perspectives, but we already hear him talk all the time. So I got to get someone else, right?
No, I hear you, bro.
But yeah, I want to keep like the regular guests that people can recognize, but vary it every other week or so with people that haven't been on like every week, or every other week. Like for example, this episode, I have you on, and I'm going to be filming another episode with my friend Sanchez. We just call him Sanchez. I forgot about that. Yeah, I'm filming one on Saturday. But honestly, I don't really know right now, to be honest. Like, I know a general idea. I want to have certain guests. Like, I wrote down a bunch of, I guess, topics I want to cover in general. And I kind of really got inspired by David So's podcast, Genius Brain. Do you know about the podcast?
I feel like I've heard about it, but I haven't checked it out. What's that about?
Basically, it's David So comedy. He kind of pivoted from his YouTube content of like, he basically started out doing those, like, he was a stand-up comedian, and he started posting like his bits that didn't work on stage online, and he started chopping it up, right?
I know this one. Yep.
And he'd always go on rants. Funny Korean guy, right?
Yeah.
From Cali, and he started a podcast 3 years ago. I can't remember how long, but he's like almost at 300 episodes, and he kind of is just like, what I love about comedians podcasts, they have so many different life experiences that they can apply to their situation while also being hilarious. And he has like, fellow influencers on, like just good friends from all that kind of stuff. And I kind of modeled I think off of his, in a way where I kind of just, he has no specific topic, right? The Genius Brain, I think he was saying it comes from like what is a sarcastic remark like his friends would make. It's like, oh man, you think you're supposed to weed some Genius Brain or something like that? Or they'd always say that. And he'd go from movies, he talked about film, because he acted in a few films, and like he produced a lot of he talked about content, just everything really. anything and everything, and I kind of wanted that.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
hear you.
like it's kind of like your show in a way, right? You guys have like general topics. You guys kind of skirt around, and you just see what happens in
Yeah.
between, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's we have like the way we structure it. It's like sort of like a main topic, and then mini topics, and then we just go from there.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so it revolves around sort of the main topic. I usually like to focus a lot on like current events, um, technology and stuff. Essentially anything that piques my interest.
yeah, yeah,
It's a pretty general thing to say, but because a lot of things interest me, but some things that don't interest me are things like I'm not a big sports guy. Like I don't watch a lot of sports.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Same.
so to be honest, I don't like to incorporate that a lot into the podcast because I feel like it's essentially like a scapegoat. Like you can always, talk about that without any actual objective views or anything. Like I like to have solidified opinions and on facts
Hmm.
and stuff. So we also like to talk a lot about fringe topics, things that should or shouldn't be discussed if you want to say,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, man, like no, that's a good look. I think that what you're sort of aspiring or modeling your podcast to be um, is very interesting. It's definitely something I'm going to continue to listen to. Um, I think you definitely have the like it's like me speaking from like in Joe Rogan or something, but no, I definitely because I listen to enough podcasts to know what's interesting. So you definitely have the topics, the voice, um, the vocabulary. Your speech comes easy. I think that's hard for a lot of people, especially self-proclaimed introverts like myself. It
yeah.
was
Same
definitely
here. I had to
a
work
learn.
on it.
It's definitely a learning curve. Yeah. Um, and it still kind of is, but best sensationalists, uh, just because we're very we listen more than we like to talk, and when we talk, it's very calculated. You don't like
Yeah.
to waste a lot of words and speech and ideas out there, but
Yeah.
definitely, man.
Like I totally think about that all the time. It's like, oh, why did I say that? Oh, it's horrible. Like I think about that all the time. Like before, I always used to be shy as a kid. Like I couldn't even order at fast food restaurants and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But
Me too.
yeah, it was like so hard. I had so much, I don't know what, anxiety about it. And
Just
like
insecurity is
yeah,
what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. It's like I don't know. And then obviously we can tie it back to martial arts. I got the self
For sure.
confidence. It's like
Yeah.
I can keep my shoulders back, hold my chin up high. It's not the best fighting stance, but it's good for
Yeah.
walking on the street, right?
No,
It's
I agree. I agree with
holding
that, man.
yourself, um, and that way. And I think I was also in drama. Like I wasn't a theater kid per se, but I was in a few plays, in high school. Okay, I guess I could say I was a theater kid because I did start like a drama thing,
Mhm.
on my own. But uh, yeah, that really helped too. I always been goofy like as a kid, like just doing funny voices and all that. And then I took drama in high school, and it was just so fun. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty chill class in general. And then I love doing different characters and stuff. Um, I've acted in a few of my like fellow act like I don't know what you would call them, students, I should say that, fellow students plays and stuff. Like we in basically in grade 12, the first half was like the teachers are all on strike, so there were no like drama festivals, there's no band for us, no band rehearsal, there's just nothing, right? No
Yeah.
teams, sports teams. And I was kind of like, we didn't have any, we're like, because in arts, like the arts at a sports school is like we got zero funding, right? We had to raise all our own money. um and and I remember like it's like we already not really appreciated that much. Like not like I really cared if people knew like, oh, these are the drama kids, right? I didn't really care about that, but
Yeah.
just like we didn't have a lot. Um, and I was like, we gotta do something, man. Like we can't just not have it, even though like the teachers, I know they can't be involved because that's they're they're on strike for trying to push what they want to have in the workplace. But I was like, we should do something, right? And I got together with a few of my friends and like younger year classmates. We started in like I don't know what you call it, like a association organization. It wasn't like official technically, like we didn't become a non-for-profit, but we basically became like I guess a volunteer organization. And
Okay. Yeah.
we basically, our goal was to just spread the arts, like just increase the appreciation for the arts in the area, just maybe people like not forget about it, because it was kind of just
Hmm.
disappearing just for that year. And we're like, we got together, we raised like good money. It was just me. I started it with four others, I think. Yeah. And then
Okay.
yeah, I got two of them were playwrights. They wrote, I acted in one of their plays for the drama festival. It was called what was it called? Infidel was the name of the play. It was like
Oh yeah.
it was such a fun, like I was evil king or something. It was just a lot of
Yeah.
fun. I really
I could see
really
that.
bonded with people during
That's
that
cool, man.
experience. Like
Yeah.
and then yeah, we raised like money. We're gonna produce our own play, write it, make all the props. We had everything. Then COVID hit. Like we raised
I
$500.
damn COVID.
We had the deposit.
Yeah.
We had the play written. We were practicing, rehearsing every week, 2 times a week. Then COVID hit, and I was like,
That's
fuck,
crazy.
man.
Yeah, I remember I had a fight scheduled.
Ooh, oh,
And
that
then
sucks,
COVID.
man.
Yeah, and I think I was like 4 or 5 weeks into training already.
Oh, yes, you're pretty
And then
close. Yeah.
and then it was a week later that the fight was. And then I remember showing up to the one-on-one with crew one morning, and I was just warming up, and he's like, yo, I need to talk to you. And I was like, and I knew
It's
right
like you know
away.
the news, man.
I knew right away. I was like, fuck, I knew it. Like, it was a blessing in disguise. I mean, that's how I always see things, that when certain things that I expect to happen don't happen,
Mhm.
I don't look at the negative thing of it, aspect of it. I'm not like, man, I missed out on this. It's never gonna happen again. But
Mhm.
I always like, from growing up in life experience, you realize that, and this can sound cliche or woo woo or whatever, but a lot of things do happen for a reason, and that was one of them. It it really put things into perspective. I didn't realize that friggin' training for a fight is no joke. It essentially became a full-time job.
Of course, yeah.
So to see people who do that for a living, not like I was friggin' fighting for the UFC or something, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
uh, you essentially dedicate, yourself to that. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could say the same for the podcast. it, I know for TGR, I said like somewhere in the near future, I do want to make my own podcast and branch out. Essentially, have a format similar to the way, get special guests and just share common themes and life experiences with other people. I'm
Yeah.
not there yet. There's a lot of things that I feel like I need to do or want to do before I do that. But for now, like, it's just another outlet that other people could enjoy, really. I
Yeah.
mean, it's different because martial arts is an outlet, but for yourself. Um, this podcast, your podcast, is an outlet for yourself and for other people, those few people who like to tune in and listen
Yeah.
and learn something or laugh about something, it is difficult. I mean, especially the way ours is formatted, having four guys try and come together consistently to get an episode done, especially when, you know, all of us have full-time jobs. One of the members has a son, a newborn son. He's just 1 year old now. You know, I hate to make life as an excuse, but that's what it is. Life takes precedence over a lot of things that we want to do. But consistency is crucial. It's key, especially for something like your podcast, man. Just keep doing it. And honestly, don't chase something for the sake of chasing it. It's like, it's a weird analogy, but it's sort of like a relationship, man. Like, you don't date for the end goal to be marriage, do you? I think that's a wrong thing. That's a wrong way to look at it, because then you're just setting yourself up for that one thing. I feel like you should do it to make yourself happy, you know?
Yeah, whatever the result is, it is.
Exactly. Whatever the result is will happen. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. As long as you tried it, you're going to fail. You're going to have highs. You're going to have lows. But that's what everything is in life, man. And I feel like the most important is, as long as you're trying it and you've put some commitment into it, because the hardest part is going for it, right? Yeah. As long as you've done that, then, I mean, the rest is just not easy, but just comes with time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And with that, I guess we'll wrap up the episode. So thank you all for listening to this episode of the Way Podcast with Niko of TGR 905.
Sir.
If you want to go ahead and plug your stuff again.
Yep, TGR 905 on Instagram, tgr905.com. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube. We do the videos as well. And yeah, if you want some merch, let us know. We try to monetize anything we can monetize at the end of the day. Capitalism, maybe.
That's all right,
no, but
man.
Honestly, seriously, it was a good conversation, bro. I like having conversations like this and exchanging ideas and learning about you, learning about me. Definitely going to have you on one of the episodes if you're down for that.
For sure, man. For sure.
And we could just chop it up and talk about more stuff, because, you know, especially with our experience and our connection with martial arts, I mean, this conversation can go on for as long as it can go. But thanks again for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing.
I shall. And thank you all for listening. Make sure you check them out, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.